amazing because Mega Partner 5 was just amazing in Dallas. And for you now to be here to share this magical moment with me of what Mega Partner MPA2 has been, it's pretty empowering. And I'm sitting next to Apple co-founder, the person that started something that the smart people in this room have, an Apple phone.
You've got something more important in my mind. You are a genuinely good person. These Mega Partnering events are just so incredible and bring people together, and you care so much about doing good for those and bringing those who don't have forward, especially in technology. You always think about charitable giving. I really am impressed by you as a person, JT, and I'm glad to be a part of Mega.
All right, let's talk about, did you ever think when you started this that many years later, what is it, like 30 odd years since the first time you and Steve put that first computer together? How many years exactly?
Oh gosh, I don't do years, it's like from 75 on, so figure it out.
As I showed Robert Goumet earlier, I'm not good with math.
It's getting close to 40 years.
40 years?
Yeah.
Would you think that 40 years, what you created genuinely changed the world?
40 years ago, we were young, in our young 20s. We had no money, no business experience. Everybody thinks, wow, well, Steve Jobs was hot. He wanted to start a company. Me, I was just this brilliant engineer, but neither one of us thought that even if we had a company and it was successful, the success just meant like kind of bringing in enough money to barely survive on. Maybe you're even bigger than that and have $1 million. We never thought of, oh my gosh, even though we talked about it, every home will have a computer someday. It was like words to get people moving in that direction, and didn't really think that company would ever be this huge and make this big a dent in all of the different companies that we took in that direction. The funny thing is, it would have happened with or without Apple. It's just that we were sort of first.
How did the name Apple, we'll talk about that. How many of you have seen the Jobs movie? Raise your hand. So there's about 30% of the room. And you tell me that the movie wasn't really an accurate reflection of what happened.
Well, it was missing in a lot of parts because it was like one of those movies you go to and you feel like, well, having been there, you're never going to think that they represented things correctly because the minor players, the big investor that had as much stock as Steve Jobs and I, he is never in the press. Nobody knows what his personality is like, so they can't write a movie scene portraying him. So you always think, oh my gosh, this is not how it was. But every scene in the movie should have happened in history and implied in the movie what really meant in real life. And that was missing in this movie. And also it portrayed Steve Jobs from a point of view that wasn't at all really what he was like when we were starting a company. Consider that he didn't really have any executive business successes in Apple for the first 10 years until he left. He had failure after failure after failure starting new products. However, he was the voice of Apple and marketing the Apple II, which was our revenues for the first 10 years. He convinced the world there was a need for this product. It had good opportunities to educate people and help them communicate. And he took the world brought the world into the Macintosh, even if it was a failure at first. He brought the world into the Macintosh where you no longer had to memorize difficult computer things to use a computer. It was really the computer for the rest of us. So, but the movie really, where it really failed was it showed Steve Jobs as like directing the terms of a deal, when we were raising our money. We had a sophisticated investor who came in and was our mentor. He actually coached Steve Jobs and myself. He taught us what our duties would be, and Steve's duties were undefined. He would just sort of filter around and learn to operate in every department of a company. Mine would be to run engineering. We needed to hire a president. His responsibilities would be this and that, to take care of everything that needed taken care of and keep all the departments moving. We'd have to hire an accountant for this reason. He defined all the roles in the company. It was that sophisticated. So we learned from that. Steve Jobs was a good learner. One of the ways that he always learned was he would try to contradict ideas that he heard expressed. He'd say, why doesn't this person do the testing instead of that other person? He would just get in and contradict, and by having conversations, he would learn himself. And also, he knew how to weed out. He had good sensibilities. When there were good ideas coming, he knew which were the good ideas and which were the bad. So the movie, though, portrayed him taking me to a computer club, and it really damaged me a lot in that way, because I had been going to the club, I was a hero, I was showing off my computers. Steve Jobs didn't even know they existed. And then all of a sudden he came into town, and I took him to a club meeting and showed him that stuff. You know, I mean, when I met him, he was 16 years old. I pulled out all my Bob Dylan albums. I read him the words, I told him what great music this was. You know, so here in the movie they portray him as Dylan, me as the Beatles. Which we agreed wasn't bad, but it wasn't like as intellectually meaningful to the world as Bob Dylan.
So you met Steve Jobs when you were 16.
He was 16. I was 20.
And you were 20.
Yeah, and we met because I had been building a computer of my own design. I got the parts given to me, and the guy I was building it with, a friend down the street, said, and he became Apple's next employee, actually. Employee number 4, but he really was the 3rd. Bill Fernandez, he had said, you got to meet this guy, Steve Jobs. He went to the same high school, and he likes electronics, and he likes to play pranks at school. I was well known for my pranks. So Steve Jobs and I sat there on the sidewalk outside of Bill's house, describing the pranks we had played, and I described how I could design any computer in 2 days. And ever after that, Steve never tried to design anything.
So Steve Jobs, notorious to be details, meticulous, emotions. Was he like that at 16?
Yes, he was actually, although it's hard to come up with examples going back that far. It was a long time ago. But it was like this little questioning and nitpicking details. He never had the technical skills to design hardware or write programs. But he could ask a lot of the right questions and say, why don't we do this? He could look at a screen. He took the art, he took the way things look in life to be his important category and to become the best in the world at it, because he couldn't really do the engineering directly, and that was very important. Look at the Apple logo. When it was proposed to us, we hired an agency, they proposed this apple with a bite out of it. They put the colors in logical rainbow order. Rainbows go from red to blue. Steve took it home and he came back and he rearranged the colors, but he did it good. He did it well. He put darker colors on the bottom, so it's not true rainbow order. And that was the sort of person he was. He just sort of looked at something and he had a sense like a cool person does. What is cool? You can't describe it. It doesn't have. You can't put it in a spreadsheet. It's all subjective. But Steve could kind of look at things and know what is cool, what is beauty, what is good. You know, all these subjective things.
So you said something that, and you said it to me a while back, and it kind of shocked me. You know, my understanding is that when we were first going around, Steve was trying to go to the banks and was not getting any success, and he wanted to do his way. And it wasn't until Steve got coached and basically said, tell me what to do, how to talk to people, and exactly how to get the results, that really things start taking off. So a lot of people said to me, you know, that Steve Jobs wasn't coachable. It sounds like what you said is completely opposite. Steve Jobs was getting coaching and coachable.
In early days, when you're that young, you know, we started out at like 20, 21 years old. Mike Markle, our investor, was coaching him about exactly how to make products, how to describe them, why the photography has to be good, why concepts came from Mike's mouth, like why the outside of a product tells people, gives them a feeling for the quality of what's inside. And then became Steve Jobs' mantra and his words over time. So he's a good learner. Like I said, he has good sensibilities. When he hears good ideas from other people, he knows them. For example, he would present in Apple and say, we're supposed to, the thing that people want is a computer out of a box ready to use. But really, if you go back, he doesn't say that it wasn't his direct idea. It was Paul Terrell at the bike shop computer store told Steve that. So a lot of things, and he came up with the name Apple. Nobody ever asked him, just assumed he came up with the name. But actually, somebody living with him on a farm said, here, I got a great name for your company. So a lot of times, but he knew what was good and what was bad, and that's why we have the great products we have today, Apple and non-Apple.
Would Apple be where it is today had Steve Jobs not been open to coaching?
Had Steve Jobs not been open to coaching, would Apple be where it is today? I can't go back and answer that. I don't like to look back and say, what if something were different? Would we be better off or worse off? Maybe we'd be better off today. Maybe other people would have run the company and had some better, successful plans for how to create a successful Macintosh computer.
But with that train of thought, so Steve Jobs being fired in 95, that was a good thing?
Steve Jobs wasn't fired in 95. Turns out that, here's what happened. The Macintosh came out and its sales dropped to 500 units a month. We had built a factory because we believed in it. All of us. The most heartbreaking moment of my life was when Steve Jobs introduced the Macintosh on stage. We all believed in it. What he calls his enemies, our CEO John Sculley, believed this product was the future for the world. And what happened was we built a factory to build 80,000 a month. The sales dropped to 500 a month. Our stock dropped half its value in like a few weeks, 1 or 2 weeks. When you're at a public company and your stock drops like that, what do? You have to roll down the sleeves and get to work and figure out what to do. And Steve was proposing some directions that just seemed absurd, incredible to everyone. He wanted to basically kill off anything we had going that was bringing all our revenues in. The Apple II computer was all of our revenues for the first 10 years. It was our only successful product. He wanted to kill it so there was no room in the Macintosh to sell more, but it would have killed the company because we didn't have enough Macintosh sales. There wasn't enough Macintosh software yet. What Steve didn't understand, and the other executives and the board of directors understood, was you have to work hard to build that Macintosh market. Yeah, the Apple II, where people had to kind of memorize commands and work a different way, their sales would go down. And this beautiful Macintosh, the sale, based on graphics, the sales would go up over time. Prices of memory was the important thing that was going to bring the price of the Macintosh down, but it was going to take years. So these people went out, they opened up the product after Steve left, opened up the Macintosh, they went out to every university and every corporation that was going to buy 100 computers, 50 computers, 200 computers, and small numbers, but anywhere they could get some sales. They went to Microsoft and other developers and got them to develop business software for the Macintosh. We had Excel before they had it on the DOS machines from Microsoft. We had it first for the Macintosh because we were trying to make the Macintosh successful. And the people that Steve said fired him and disdained him, they were the ones that worked so hard to build the future we believed in, actually, and they were good people. And that's not clear in the movie at all. So Steve was not fired. He could have started any project he wanted in Apple, been funded millions of dollars, and given pick employees to go work on a new computer. No, he chose to leave partly, I think, out of kind of an embarrassment or a lack of a pride thing, saving face. He went out to leave and sort of compete and try to do it his way. And he really did mature a lot when he was running his own companies. He really learned how to run a company, and he was ready to come back to Apple and take it to the moon.
There's a lot of, what was your dynamic with it? What is your dynamic between you and Steve? With the relationship as this thing is growing very quickly, what was your dynamic? What was your role? What was his role? Did you guys work very well? Did you butt heads?
Yeah, when we started the company, I had personal philosophies. I didn't want to be a big company runner. I didn't want to be even gloriously wealthy. I actually said no to accepting our big venture money at first. And I just wanted to do my engineering. I was afraid if I ran a company, I was such a softie and too nice, people would just kick me out and do things like they do at the top levels you hear about in movies. So I just would run engineering and keep my nose out at the top of the company. Steve Jobs wanted to find his way to run a company. And he never quite had a real executive title at Apple. He was kind of working his way up there, but still under other people at all times. But we were now in different parts of the company. The decisions he was making were different than my engineering decisions. So we weren't working side by side. And we were still close friends. We saw staff meetings, we went out to dinners, but generally drifted apart over a lot of years. We were different people. But we were never unfriendly. We never had falling outs. We never had arguments. Never said bad things about each other. And at the very end of his life, he started calling me. He was really talking about those old days. You know what? It's funny that you go to high school and you don't remember all the formulas they taught you in chemistry, but you remember the fun things you did with your friends. And that was really important to him in his mind. Early days, like he was saying, did you ever think it would come to this, just like you asked.
What was the last conversation you had with him?
The last one, I don't do very perfectly. It might be the next to last, but he was saying that he was going to die soon, and I thought he was being metaphoric. We all die before we won. So I said, you're not judged by what you don't do when you're not here. He wasn't CEO of Apple anymore. He was on the sidelines. You're not judged by what you don't do when you're not doing it. You're judged by what you did when you did it, and you did the best ever. You did the greatest things. You're the best friend of my life. You got me a great life of technology. I'm very thankful for it. And he didn't really go in and say, well, I'm dying in a week. He didn't say that sort of thing. And he did want to talk about the past quite a bit. He also asked if I was interested in coming back to Apple, and I told him there was press misquotes and things like that. And I said, really, I love the life I have. And on the outside of Apple, I love observing. I love using the Apple products, using other vendors' products, comparing them. I'm a gadget guy. I love technology. I'd love to see, wow, somebody thought of that cool thing that I could show off and impress people with. That's where we started from. I mean, I'd like to still feel today is the way I think is the way when we started Apple. I just don't have as much time because of the stupid thing called the internet.
Well, Al Gore did invent it, so.
Al Gore had a very big role in that, actually.
You're probably the only ones that have admitted that.
No. Anybody that was close to setting up the early internet and even funding the web services and all that, all the ones that were out there in the government and in technology trying to get the money allocated, Al Gore and Congress was making it possible.
Let's talk about Apple comes out with various products, and let's talk about the iPhone. Comes up, changes, revolutionary, and let's fast forward to the last few years. You know, the 5S, 5C, and people have been waiting for that bigger screen and that innovative thing. And on the other hand, you have Samsung, who has now surpassed Apple in terms of market share, even though Apple still has a higher kind of profit share on that. What happened? Did they get their eye off the ball? Did they stop innovating? Did they get too comfortable? Did they get too rich? Is the stock going up? Where should I invest? What does iPhone 6 look like? Go ahead.
When we formed the company, I was one of these do-gooders, JT. I wanted to create technology and give it away to the world. I don't
know about that.
The world.
JT.
Okay, but Mike Markle, who funded us, he said that first of all, you have to be a marketing-driven company. You have to understand the needs of the market, what the value of the product is worth, what they'll pay for it. That's more important than engineering, and I bought that into my heart. Here was a successful guy who put his money into our company. He had as much stock as Steve Jobs and myself, and he's directing us. He also said, we have to be very profitable. We have this great product, the Apple II. Nothing like it in the world, nothing the world ever dreamed would be this, with color and graphics and games and programmability and everything. He said, we've got to sell it at a very high profit margin. Because when you grow a company, you run out of money. Your growth costs, you run out of money, and you've got to go borrow more. You borrow more, and you own less of your company. And we took the attitude, we wanted to own this company. You know, a large amount of it for a very long time. We wanted to keep control of the company. We didn't want to get bought out. Mike Markle taught us that small-sized companies don't get bought very often, and huge companies don't get bought often. There's an in-between range, and we kept hoping we'd make it.
What's that range?
Through the in-between. At the time, it was centered around 40 million. It was basically maybe 10 million, 20 million to 100 million dollars. At that time, that was different years' money. So
isn't it kind of what it is today? You have the 0 to 12 million, which is not something very attractive, and the 12 to 20. So the private equity institutional lenders, the 20 million mark is what seems to be the 20 to 60 million mark in today's market.
That's probably the starting point. I think a lot of companies get bought for maybe even a few hundred million today, but it's a higher number. It's a larger number in terms of dollars.
Are they? You know, they're still what they are. People still buy, and I think a lot of it has to do with loyalty. Obviously, every time something comes out, I buy it. I know you get it as well. So, what are they not? Which, if Steve Jobs was there right now, would there be another product? Because he would have been insanely that we need to get. It just, where are the new products? Where's the innovation?
That's true. Although we didn't really finish the prior comment, but it has to do with Apple's place in the market today. Very satisfied with it. The largest company in the world, all sorts of things right. A lot of legs supporting great products. Why? A lot of people inside, why take the risks to blow it? I hope that doesn't hurt innovation, but innovation happens secretly now. Steve Jobs warned when he came back, don't show Bill Gates your graphical user interface computer with a mouse. Don't show it to him to write software for. Keep it secret. And when you come out with it, it's a total surprise and we own the world. He didn't know at the early stage. You've got to wait till it's actually affordable. A good computer is affordable.
Exclusivity and surprise element. I should write that down. Something that, I mean, Apple, by far, does the best product launches of ever.
Yeah, things like, Samsung having a greater market share. You know, I buy Samsung products, and I actually think a lot of them are very good, too. So I can't go tell somebody, oh, you've got a lousy phone, you should change to an iPhone. Never would I do that, because I know better. Whereas the first few Android phones I had were awful. I didn't like them a bit compared to the iPhone. So, you know, I just try to be objective. That's what engineering is all about. You know, look at the world, be objective, and do it. However, there is this thing called a brand. Apple, why does Apple sell a little bit less in terms of memory and storage and speed and ability, a little bit less than other makers, and yet they wind up with a much huger selling price and profit margin, and that profit margin is due to the brand, the loyalty to the brand, the fact that it means you can trust this company to have the great products and to lead the direction of the future. You can also trust them to make things simple. You know what? There's an awful lot of people in the world that most people in this audience are very technical. I know how to use my phone pretty well. There are a lot of people, even in this audience, who say, I'm so scared to go, I don't really know how to use this phone. I can take a picture and I can send a text message, but that's about it. People are afraid to say that. The safest corner to be in is the Apple corner. We have protected all the people that aren't technologists, largely because, I'm going to say this flat out, my opinion, only my opinion, not no proof, is because Steve Jobs himself was not a technologist and didn't like technologists that knew every little mega number and every little microsecond and, knew all the specs of the voltages inside the chips. He didn't know that. He just wanted a product that worked the human way.
So I just recently purchased a company called Life, and the concept is kind of eBay, Amazon, higher level Groupon, interactive game, kind of everything encompassed in one. And I want to take a look at the market. You have to play it like that. So you have to look at what Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, they're worth billions of dollars. I mean, Twitter has a $36 billion market value at this point. The same as Kraft Food, and they all lose money. What is going on in the market right now that these companies can be worth billions of dollars and not make any money?
I'm not sure they all lose money.
Well, Twitter loses money right now. Instagram, Snapchat is a
Facebook, Google. There are some examples. Twitter, I think, might be crossing the goal level. They're at least moving in the right direction. What was it? Viber just got bought by a Japanese businessman for $1 billion almost. Viber for texting and phone calls over the internet. That's kind of a cool little program, but it's like it's hard to see where's the monetary value. Well, look at the old time television. Media in the old days was watching television shows, and you always sat there and you watched commercials, and that paid for everything. So the social networks had to find a way to capitalize themselves eventually.
But doesn't it make sense though? You grab this product and you build it, you sell it, and you can measure what the company's worth based on revenues and sales and the EBITDA and so forth. And now you have these things where there's no earnings. Is Twitter really worth $36 billion, same as Kraft Food, which is an empire? I mean, is that just where the market is going? And does that surprise you? I mean, I'm surprised every time.
I don't think companies start up very often with that sort of a business model, but we went through the dot-com era where these things got so huge in terms of millions and billions of users that's like it's a gate you've got with billions of people going through. Can you capitalize on that? Everyone says yes, of course.
And that's the point.
When you walk in my home, I'm going to have something on sale for you in the color green because I know your favorite color is green, and I also know which brand.
So is yours. It's interesting because what Woz just confirmed to me that my acquisition of Vault Life, of the technology of it and where it's going, at the end of the day, it's not where it is. It's not traditionally Kraft and these companies. It's where the market's going to be. And that's, Wayne Gretzky.
JT, make it fun, make it pleasurable. Don't justify it economically at the start. Throw that aside to make it good. Once you have something good, then you can figure out how to capitalize it.
Imagine me and you. I can take my other partner out, me and you.
I wish there was a formula for what good is on a spreadsheet, but then a million people would be able to calculate that formula. Sometimes you have to guess, you have to luck into it, you have to have a feeling, the feeling turns out right, and it wasn't right when you had it, but it turns out right later, so you can tell.
Is it risky, though, in the technology space where things change so quickly? Like, for example, do you think it's a bad idea for Snapchat to turn down $3 billion from Facebook? Is that like a bad move, or do you see it as a good move? I mean, it's a lot of money.
I still avoid the business ends and thinking about how much these things are.
But $3 billion, that's a lot of, and over a year and a half. I mean, you spent, Apple was one of the fastest rising.
Okay, take a look at this. Well, who bought Snapchat?
Well, no one bought Snapchat.
But who would buy it? It might be a Google.
Well, Facebook offered $3 billion.
It might be Apple who's got a lot of money.
Facebook offered $3 billion for it.
Yeah.
They turned down $3 billion. These are 21, 22-year-olds turning down $3 billion, and they haven't made any money. What's going on? Take the money. I want the money. $3 billion.
There were times that we could have accepted money for Apple that was so little compared to what it was worth. So it's hard to judge.
So I tell them, I'm asking for coaching, I'm like, you know, Woz, you've gone to this, Apple, the whole thing. Facebook's off me $3 billion. There's a Snapchat, take the picture, it disappears. I don't know how we're going to advertise it. Should I sell or not sell? What do you say?
Usually I'd say sell. Because I'm a person who, oh my gosh, it's a bird in the hand.
Yeah, $3 billion would be a big bird.
$3 billion, and continue operations of it and stock that can still grow. You know, it's not like you're giving up the whole thing. That there might have been some sacrificing being done as to when you have Snapchat, you're making the decisions. It's all successful. You become very proud of yourself when you're on a business success. You become proud of your decisions. I made this, and I want to keep making it. I have ideas of where it can go. And somebody else buys me. All of a sudden, they own me. They'll make the decisions. If I go public, of course, then it's public ownership. And that was something that we tried to avoid at Apple for quite a while. We tried to avoid going public even, because then you've got other owners and they're forcing your decisions. You're not as free, and it's not as fun, it's not as innovative. You can't be as innovative as you have been. So I'm sure that that's part of the formula too.
Does innovation excite you, or business excites you more? The aspect of business, which one excites you more?
Innovation excites me the most, whether it's successful or not. I see a lot of products in my life, oh my gosh, I'd love to show other people, look at how cool this is, and yet they don't make any money, they go bankrupt, they're just a little, kind of a fun toy on the side. I don't know, I'm a gadget guy. I've been hooking things together my whole life, and I love playing with new products and seeing, wow, I can point a phone at you and say smile, and it takes the picture when I just said smile. I love these kind of things. Like, who thought of them? You know, I wish I thought of them all. You can't think of everything yourself, but you can admire what you wish you could thought.
Can we show a video, Ryan? A video, and I don't know which one you're going to play first, but I want you to watch this video. Is that screen to be available? I want you guys to watch the video and tell me, I don't know which one we're showing, but I'll ask the question after. Okay.
This little device holds 1,000 songs. It goes right in my pocket.
Third industry milestone product, Macintosh, and it has turned out insanely great.
iPod. A phone. Are you getting it? This is iPad. The whole thing is translucent. You can see into it. It's so cool. I'm very fortunate to get to work on just one of these in your career. Apple's been very fortunate. It's been able to introduce a few of these into the world. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone, and we call it the iPad. This is iPad. An iPhone 5.
I'd like to let Macintosh speak for itself.
What's going through your mind when you watch that?
That was the greatness of Steve Jobs. That's what made our lives so beautiful today. You know, the value of the company, Apple Computer, they talked about us being the biggest company in the world currently. Well, the value was always the same up and down as when we started with the Apple II computer. And when the Macintosh replaced it, it was about the same. When Steve Jobs returned to the company, it was about the same. And as we built the company for years and switched our operating system, it was about the same. The iPod came out, and the value of the company doubled. We now had a huge music device, and we had a huge computer. So we had two companies in one. So I call the iPod introduction, which was part of this video, I call that Steve Jobs' Apple II. That was when he really made a big success. Of course, we had to pay a guy in Singapore $100 million for it or something. But you know what? I was traveling the world around him. I was traveling the world around him doing the technology.
What do you mean you had to buy $100 million out of some Singapore guy?
Well, it was sort of like
It's an exclusive.
you take the best you can find.
So there was already something like that, and then Apple, Steve found it and bought it out. And
Yeah, I don't know the story clearly enough to talk about it right now.
Well, I just found something out. I thought exclusive here.
Okay. Anyway, but
Are you giving me a minute?
that's not important. The important thing is to find which products are the right things, have the sensibility about it, and see that, and know what's great and what's just average. I was traveling the world to look at technology products and gadgets at that time. MP3s had come about, the internet was new, we were on dial-up lines, and MP3s came out. The funny thing is, the best music program in the world, strangely enough, was on this low market share Macintosh. It was called SoundJam. Apple bought SoundJam and turned it into iTunes. But I was traveling the world, and I was getting all these little MP3 devices. You could load some files on them, and I'd buy, some of them were RAM-based. I had one that I could plug little cartridges in, the 9-reel 500. Of course, for the little cartridges that you had in your cameras back then, you could only put 2 songs on each cartridge. So I had to buy $1,000 worth of cartridges, about 20 of them, just to get my music to get a cross-country flight. So it was kind of expensive, but it was pure because it was all RAM. No moving disc inside, no moving parts. And then I had the Sony mini disc. The Sony mini disc had this little disc inside that you had to record from your music at home. You recorded, you could carry them, and they were so inexpensive. And I took both of those in my hand when the iPod came out. I put the iPod in the middle. Where does it fall in compared to this low cost of this pure RAM device? And after using the iPod for a half a day, you know what you actually like? Your muscles spinning around on a dial. It was a new thing in life, and it was just amusing. You'd never go back. So it was only one place.
When you watch that
But
video,
Steve Jobs was also traveling the world, and he had seen early music devices, taken them apart, analyzed them. He was thinking about how do we turn it into a product and make something. I was just thinking, where are the greatest products? You know, why are they great?
but think about it. When I watch that video, you see what you create. I mean, from you and Steve and the computer to where it's at now, and the happiness. I mean, it's like people are like, yeah, I just spent $800 on the phone, and then they want to have pure happiness, and then it's like
You've hit it. Apple from day one, our computer, nobody ever expected a computer would have color built in. It's like bringing color to movies. Nobody expected graphics where you could play games on it. We had fun in all of our products. Even if you're using it for your business work, we had fun ways to do it. The mouse was a step towards making it more pleasurable to use. The iPod was really a fun part of our life. Music was a big driving force in
when you
life.
see does it ever set it? I know because you do a lot of speeches and it's been around there, but do you like have the realization of you created, which is now one of the greatest, most valuable companies in the world. That's not just like an oil company that just makes money off because you have to. There's choices in the market, and the happiness and to watch that video. I mean, your contribution and your legacy. I mean, that video in a way is your legacy. It's what you created.
Well, of course, when you start a company, you're just hoping it's going to become the most important, great company in the world. And IBM was a computer company, and they had been the biggest in the world. And that was a path you kind of hoped for, but it's a long shot. So it's pretty amazing to see that we really didn't falter. But it really took a lot of coming back. It was really when Steve Jobs came back to the company, and he wanted to bring back a lot of the greatness in the products that we lost. And he knew how to be, if he was in control, how to run a company very well. And we got these great products. The iPhone was probably the most important, gadget technology product ever introduced in my life. And it was a weird thing that with the iPhone we went open. With the iPod, I'm going to go back all the way to the iPod. With the iPod, we actually went open. Normally Steve Jobs is known for making products closed. Here's the product you buy. You cannot expand it very much. You can't alter it. You can't change its characteristics throughout your life. And with the iPod, though, we said, products before that, we said, you're in the Macintosh world. You're in Apple's home. We wrote iTunes for Windows. So even Windows users could buy this iPod and make it a successful product. Do we write iTunes now for Android phones? No, we might have lost the formula. We might have forgotten.
What was Steve Jobs' greatest strength?
Greatest strength, that's what I've said many times. I like to use the word sensibility. It's a word that I've just thought of myself, but it was really being able to listen to engineers and know which ones are BSing and which ones really can do what they're saying they can do. It was knowing which technologies of underground, scientific discoveries are going to lead to a new class of product and which aren't. What product is worth how much and what it isn't, and what people really like and what they don't like and what they will want to buy. Really just he understood people and the buying audience so well. He was one of them. I mean, he was enthusiastic. If you're going to use your own product, you're a much better CEO than if you're just trying to manage a company, on the spreadsheet.
What was his greatest weakness?
His greatest weakness was his, he wasn't really a charitable person. Like I said, when we started the company, he didn't really have these goals of, we're going to bring these great devices to the world and free people from poverty. And he never once donated to charities personally or had the company allowed to donate any money. And that shows up in a person who really, his goals aren't, I want to benefit society. It's really, I want to make a great product because it'll make a great company and sell a lot. He was also very rude to people. He could just treat a lot of other people like he was more important on some occasions. And other times he would be just the friendliest, nicest person. He's one-on-one having chats with you, but then he might fire somebody real quickly just because they didn't have a good answer or they couldn't tell him what he was doing quick enough. And those sorts of things were bad. He also, there were times, he just, I don't know, he always had to win.
But isn't that kind of the perspective of a lot of top level? You met them all
Yes.
as well?
No. There are a lot of top level people that I've met, a lot of CEOs that are very driving forceful, and they know how to fire people that need to be fired, but they can still be more nice people that you like being around. They can be different in the world.
When you
And look at how many successful companies do an awful lot of charitable work in their community to get good corporate standing, good image. Even Apple's doing more of that now.
Do you think when you spoke to him, and who knows he was going to die right soon after you spoke to him last, do you think he was at peace with the legacy he created, or did the realization come, I'm dying out, there's just so much more I could achieve, or do you think he was at a place that says, you know what, I've accepted, it is what it is, and I'm happy with the legacy I created, or with their sense of, I feel this is too early and I haven't done enough?
Oh, he was very happy with his legacy. And he actually worked to manage his legacy on products. No matter who developed the products, when they were good, he really wanted to be sort of the person seen with it. But he had a lot of, it's hard to understand any one person totally. But no, he was very satisfied with what he had done for the world. Good Lord, Apple became the largest company in the world, the largest company of all time if you didn't adjust for dollars changing. I don't know, what legacy could you ever have more? And think, oh my gosh, it's not enough, I want to do more.
Was Steve Jobs happy?
Almost every time I ever dealt with him, he was happy, and he was always very respectful to me, and he liked to chat about things, and he wasn't necessarily a laughing, telling jokes, listening to jokes. Business from the time we started Apple, he changed a lot. And business became everything important, and you couldn't talk about fun things you did in life very much. So he was less and less that person openly, but he was happy. Yeah.
Tell me a story about Steve
Except when
Jobs.
his computers didn't work. He was as upset at the world as I am. When they don't work.
Tell me a story about Steve Jobs that you've never said or very few people so you can share with us.
I'm going to go back. I could go way back to before Apple, but when we introduced the MPA2 computer, I made up a phony brochure, 8,000 copies. I distributed them. It was for a phony product. It looked real. I had a fake quote inside of it that indicated a third company. I didn't tell anyone I'd done it. I learned in school, you don't get caught if you don't tell anyone. Steve Jobs didn't even know I had done this one. Everybody in the technology world knew that it had happened, and it was kind of funny. And on his 12th, on one of his birthdays, 12 years later, I gave him a present as a framed copy of it, and he broke into laughter. I had not seen Steve break into laughter in 10 years. He broke into laughter. He said, "You did that?"
I want to show another video on it, and I want to, this is part of history. Now, I heard the backstory, but as I'm trying to learn in the media, that whatever they say about you is is for something happened. It's either half right or completely wrong. And so I want to kind of get the truth. So I want to, Ryan, play this video, which a lot of people know.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information fortification detectors. Created for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each one might bloom, secure from the pests of any contradictory force. The force is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our hands shall talk themselves to death, and we will guide them with arrow and torch. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Let me give the real story. How did this come about? And it only ran one time during the Super Bowl. That's it.
And it actually had to be shown late at night on a channel nobody was watching one time earlier to qualify for the commercial awards that year. And it's always won best commercial of all time. I think it's the best commercial of all time, just a scientific fiction theme of the way it's presented. And Apple is going to clean the world up and strike against the way things are, and everybody having to think the same way. I don't know if that's that true about Apple today, but the Macintosh was just breaking computers into a totally new direction, just like the iPhone did later on.
But I heard Steve didn't
I'll tell you the story.
did.
No,
Tell me the real story.
No, the real story is one time Steve called me over to the Macintosh division at night, and he, on a pneumatic recorder, he put in a tape and played that commercial. Wow, I said, that's incredible. We're going to show it at the Super Bowl. Steve said the board voted against it. I said, why? It's the best commercial ever. He said, well, there's this and that, and they don't want to be anti-business, and it cost $800,000. And I sat there stunned. This commercial was so beautiful. I wanted the world to see it. And I said, in my naivety, my business naivety, I said, I'm thinking in my head, I'll pay half the price if you'll pay the rest. We've got to show this. This is us.
That's a lot of money back then, too.
That's a lot of money, but and I said, this is us. And I hope I guess I told the board what I said.
What did Steve say?
Well, he didn't really act like he was going to go along with that, or that was a positive way. There's still a chance the board might show it. And it turns out that the ad agency that created that ad knew how great it was in terms of the production value and the emotional value. And they had people that kept telling the board director said, sell the 2 Super Bowl slots. They sold one of them, but they deliberately didn't sell the other one. They kept telling Apple they couldn't sell it. Steve Hayden of Cheyenne made sure that we couldn't sell the Super Bowl slot, so we had to show it anyway. Fortunately for the world.
All right, well, I have like 100 more questions, but I know you're a big supporter, and you know I am a big supporter of entrepreneurial youth, and I think it's the future, and I think so many people, your book is amazing. I know I've seen a lot of youth read it because it's exciting to see how everything started. We have a young youth here who's 14, sitting in the front row, wearing a JT Fox tie, just like you and I, because that's what smart people do, and they have an iPhone, so that's what smart people do, right? And so, Tristan, come on up, and this time, I'm going to coach you, where you're going to sit where I sit, you're going to ask Steve Wozniak a question, and then you're going to close Steve, so you're going to bring the thing, don't forget the most important thing, okay? And you're going to come sit in the big guy's chair, you're going to ask Steve Wozniak one question, right? And then you're going to do what I taught you to do. Or pretend to do.
What's your name, Tristan? Tristan, please, let me give you one of my name cards. Never need to stay on the airplane, the card will work fine.
So I just wanted to ask you, you started an extremely successful business with Steve Jobs. And I just wanted to ask, what advice do you have to give on partnership?
For one thing, believe in your thinking when you're young. You have very good thoughts. You are very well educated. You can answer a lot of questions about the world that adults can't answer. Just because somebody's an adult and in charge of things doesn't make them a better thinker. Ideas for new products, ideas for the future, ideas for changing life, they come from your own education, your own mind, your own thinking, your own ideas. And don't ever think they're not as good as somebody else's just because they're older. If somebody older tells you, oh, this idea really won't fly at all, it's just not how people do things, you got to not listen to them. Steve and I were very easy, very independent. We believed in ourselves and we weren't listening to them. You know, and when you're young, oh my gosh, you might have a passion, you might care about something so much. Every bit of your time you can put into making that thing good, the best in the world. And you know what? Even if it's something you could just tell your friends, I did this thing, look at it, it's so cool. It may not make money, and then you'll do another one. Look how young you are. If you can have one good idea, you can have 100 good ideas real easy in your life. You'll do another one, and you'll build something that's always better. Every time you create something, your thinking gets one level higher. Also, remember this. Look at Apple. Apple's a real good example because the partnership with Steve Jobs and myself was so good. I had the technology skills that I just developed for no reason other than I just loved technology. I loved the word computers. I wanted to know how they work so I could design things nobody else could design. Steve Jobs wanted to have a business and turn them into money and turn them into a company and be important in the world. And you make something good so that you can make some money and that'll let you invest it and make more money. And he wanted to be one of those people that takes the world forwards. And I look at every technology company today, and every one of them takes the world forward in every step. And I can't say the same for politicians. Got something to show me?
So now you gotta do what I taught you, okay? Go ahead. Show me what you can do. Hold the mic for you. ABC.
ABC. So this is the JT Fox model. So obviously the values improve 50%.
Very good.
And and I would like to ask you this question. If you could please sign this one.
Oh, of course.
Why does it need to sign? Why is it we sign?
So that we can auction it off.
So we can do what with it?
So that we can start off bidding for it. Oh yeah.
Okay, I get it.
So now Steve Wozniak is
So
officially.
now it's a JT Fox and a Woz.
Well, I'm gonna
Put
sign
the
it.
Woz in a couple places. Oh, you're gonna sign
I'm gonna sign it too. And the highest bidder. Now, when Tristan is starting a little business, what he did, he actually went to Coke, got me the sponsorship deal, right? Got me the sponsorship deal, invested his own money and bought the product. And now outside what he's doing is that, so he comes out with money, him and I are splitting 50-50. My share of the profits are going back to charity, where he's going to go to a charity and spend the day and give back to charity. So he's going to create an entrepreneur venture and help give back.
Well, that is so good of you.
What advice would you have? Yeah, and by the way, we're going to auction off the one you just drank. Always good closing. What advice would you have for Tristan and all of the youth, the parents out there who are looking for that inspiration so that their next
Okay. When you are done with your life and you look back, you could say, I created all these great companies and products and I kept things profitable. Or you could say, you know what, everything I did in life, I really had a lot of fun and I helped people who needed help. When I had extra that I didn't need, I helped give it to others. And you could be that kind of person. I decided I'd rather be the latter kind of person. How nice you are to people, how well received, how much you care about others and their problems and are willing to help them when you have success. That was more important to me than even having an Apple computer. So you know what, I'm going to encourage you also, Tristan, you know what? argument. If you don't think the same way as somebody else, and they don't think their way, you don't have to argue, you don't have to be unhappy. You are happy with how you think, they're happy with how they think. You know, there's not one good in the world. There's not one good way. And if you think there is, you're just going to be upset at things your whole life. Live your life and find a balance to I always believe that world peace is possible.
Tristan, 2 weeks ago you told me that you wanted to be the next JT Fox. You were at Mega Partnering, the world's #1 wealth networking conference, in front of 1,500 people sitting in my chair interviewing Apple co-founder. I think you've arrived. Congratulations. Cash, please. I'm actually making a higher percentage of that thing. Wow, now wow, the favorite dish of all.
I'll sell that car for charity.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I want to go with another. Is Brian Metcalf here, who is a huge Wozniak fan, and he owns one of the premier security firms here in South Africa, and he's been dying to ask you a question. Are you here, Brian Metcalf? He's right there. He's been practicing all day. He's like, I've never seen anybody start practicing at 11. He's very 11th grader like you know, those engineering types. Practice. Me and John.
I grew up very left brain, but I can't go right brain now.
Yes.
Life easy and understandable for human beings.
Thank God. So Brian, come on up, buddy. This is actually going to stand up. Come on up. And so you get to ask Steve Wozniak a question.
Make him hold this.
Whoa, I'll hold it for him. Oh! Look at this. Business Live. Mega Partner. Calm down. Calm down. Security.
Did you forget that that's my security?
Yeah, that's a good point. Ryan provided the security. That's why I'm still alive. Is that an iPad?
That is, yes. Thank you, sir. As much as I've been practicing this all day, I would actually like to make use of your products to pose this question to you. We're a security company. Our company is called Corporate Business Security. And as one of South Africa's top corporate security companies, how do we balance the need to satisfying a customer's wants and promoting continuous innovation?
So I think what he's trying to say, yeah, that's a good question.
Well, first of all, you know what? You've got to have people in your company, hopefully at the top, that are incentivized to innovate, that want to think, oh my gosh, we've got to find some better, newer ways. Now, if it was computer security, I would say everybody who's worked in computer security is kind of flawed. You're company after company after company, the hackers kind of win the war. And how do you solve things? Sometimes putting in an extra level of security puts in holes and flaws along with it that can be taken advantage of. I can use an example of the United States. It's one of the few countries in the world that has the toughest airport security. If you're traveling through the United States to another country, you still have to collect your bag and then recheck it. But if you're transferring something that's legal in country A through the United States to country C, it's totally legal, even if it's not quite legal in the United States because of pricing of generic drugs and things like that. But after you get through customs to the United States, you don't have to recheck the bag.
But what about the need of...
So it's a hole that came about because of extra security.
Well, I think another of his questions this morning is security. And so you build someone a computer, and they spend a lot of money on that personal computer, right? So you build something, and they're like, wow, I know. And then a year later, 6 months later, now I've got a better version of it. And did you ever struggle with that, saying, you know, here are, yes, it's a better one, but I just spent this money on this one, and this one was supposed to be good, but now you're telling me this one is better. So did you ever feel kind of the need to balance both?
I don't know about what that has to do with security. I know security in computers. I always feel, no, we don't have any. You just buy it and you assume it came secure. And those assumptions are turning out to be wrong.
But I'm just talking about buying a computer, and then I have to buy another one that's a better. I'm just a normal. I'm buying a PC, and then 6 months later, it's like I buy the iPhone, and then they're telling me, no, this iPhone is better. So like, dude, I just
in the old days, we had what was called in the car era, the automobile era, we had planned obsolescence. You plan that the car's only going to last so many years, so you don't design any of the individual parts to work more than that time frame. Well, now in the computer era, in the modern era, we have something more like forced obsolescence. You are forced to upgrade to the newer one, to have the latest plans, the latest software, the latest hardware on it, to have it work well at all. And that's just sort of part of life. I don't feel like we consumers have an awful lot to say about that.
So you're just that's just part of the natural evolution of technology innovation and
yeah, I prefer things myself. I'm the sort of person, just like everybody here probably. I just hate the change. I just wish something that was good would stay as good. And sometimes the changes do bring improvements. And sometimes it's like they say, rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. They just moved some menus around and made little changes and things, and it doesn't really change my life. As a matter of fact, when the iPhone 5 came out, I bought it. It was so glorious. I called my wife and told her how beautiful it was. I was in another country. And then a week later, I told her, it really hasn't changed my phone life at all. But I bought it.
Except for the fingerprint, but that's...
Yep. The 5S with the fingerprint. I was back at that. The 5S has the fingerprint thing. And now what I'm telling my friends is get a 5C. Because the fingerprint thing isn't worth an awful lot to me. It hasn't really changed my life that much, and I love the colors of the 5C. I've become a big 5C fan, don't ask me why.
Apple 6, what does the design look like?
I could guess it, but I don't really know. And Apple is...
Well, what do you think?
It's good that I don't know, because that means that the people working on it are making it so fine and perfect that it has to be. First of all, it had better be not too radical a change from the iPhone 5, because the iPhone 5 is doing very well. Secondly, there are, you think about the iPhone 5, we had this iPhone called the iPhone 4, and it had a little bit small screen, and you'd walk into a carrier, a phone carrier, you'd walk into an electronics store, and you'd see all these other phones with larger screens. The funny thing is, think about the first iPhone that ever came out. The first iPhone that Steve Jobs introduced on stage had a larger screen than the little half-screen BlackBerries. So it was a larger screen in its time. Now it was kind of small, so Apple increased the screen size in the iPhone 5, but they made the iPhone screen change vertically and not horizontally. And it's like, why didn't they just expand it, grow it in both dimensions? Because it would have been so much easier for the programmers of the graphics just to say, just blow my graphics up, 20% or whatever. Now you have to do it one program for the iPhone 5 and a different one for the iPhone 4. So, I don't know, so larger screen, maybe.
Okay. Give Brian a big round of applause. Thanks, buddy. Talk about that, Brian. Calm down. Calm down.
Yeah.
So, BlackBerry. 53% market share 3.5 years ago, down to almost 2% now. What happened?
I played around with all the different phones that were out before iPhones even, and a lot of different people were trying this market of a phone that could do a little bit, even if it was a Motorola Razr, the little flip phone. You could actually get to the internet and send some complicated message or text messages and stuff like that. The BlackBerry was the best. I carried the BlackBerry around, and for some reason, everything I wanted to do was very, very easy to do on the BlackBerry. So it was a good phone. When the iPhone came out, BlackBerry was well aware that their market share wasn't going to drop, or their sales weren't going to drop for a year and a year and a year. And eventually, though, it just became the out of style. They didn't keep up with the style change. It was one of those things that Steve Jobs can understand very, very well about the way the world's going and when to give up on some of the old. That's why Apple tends to be more of a changing things company even than Microsoft.
Robert Gumede, who spoke earlier, he owns 26% of the company that I own. I'm a majority partner. Thinks that he had a larger share, and we're the back there. So I know, Robert, you've done such a great job here today. Why don't you come up and ask Steve Wozniak a question? Come on up, Robert. Give Robert Gumede a big round of applause. Okay, go ahead. I'm thinking because I gotta get the mic shot. I'm gonna make it seem like I'm feeling like.
Hi. I was just enjoying a lot of the technology here, you know, to me. New cars, that's technology.
Robert would like to buy you one of those. Partner?
There's one like that one.
So, what
What is that one?
That's the Vanquish.
Wow. Beautiful car, yeah. I like beautiful cars.
Is this what billionaires talk about? Trying to get a billionaire conversation going here. That's what's saying.
And I drove a Toyota Prius for 10 years. I had 9 Priuses. All the use of my family, it was the most useful car of my life, but I do have a Tesla now because it's an all-electric vehicle.
South African, Elon Musk.
Steve Jobs, very much.
He's one of us. We send him to you. Because, you know, we don't like being guinea pigs. We wanted him to start with you so that he can bring the product back home.
Good.
So from
Is that why the iPhone is 3 and the iPhone 5 was like a year later?
Yes, of course, we wanted to make sure that the Chinese copied it first. But for me, first, I'm so excited to have met you. You and Steve have done wonders. The point that you raised of choosing the right partner from the beginning, a value-added partner, is what has made your association and the companies that you've been involved in to succeed. And one thing that you said is that you never had to fight. And it's not easy in a business environment. It just meant that you were made for each other.
It's actually easy for me because I'm a non-conflict person and I don't fight and I'm a pacifist and I don't fight with anybody. So I don't have any envy. You do something bad to me, I'll be good to you.
Robert also took a bus.
Steve Jobs, you know, when people came out that had incredible abilities and did great things, Steve Jobs always liked them and appreciated them and treated them a lot more specially than just normal people who were kind of struggling in their job or whatever, which was a bad side of Steve's, but I was sort of in the lucky white hat category.
But I've got one question for you. See,
What was that one before? Was it practice one?
keeping that.
Yeah, it's really like sure.
We're distracted.
I'll
I'll tell you for
It
that.
was crazy. But for me, it's Africa, as you can see, it's a growing continent. It's rich, and the people are still lacking good education. We still rely on products, and we now are getting people from the Far East dumping products. If you really look in terms of the kind of cell phones that are mushrooming and being sold within the continent, that hardly lasts 6 months. What is it that Africa can do for itself and produce a phone that is ideally suited for Africa?
Wow, difficult question to answer because these days, production of a product like a smartphone involves so many hundreds of people, even thousands, and some of them are not even around anymore. They wrote parts of code and software that gets reused. They design parts of chips that gets reused over and over. And so the team that it takes to build a phone generally comes out of that environment. It doesn't come out from just one mind of a young person any longer. It takes a lot of caring. You know, back home, we just care so much more about Africa. It's like the poorest place in the world. And there are so many of us that just, how could we bring Africa up, you know, to be a part of the world instead of being, you know, a problem to worry about. And I think, but to me, it starts with education. You know, and I don't know how you solve these problems. Do you need 5 billion people that decide we all want to go and help individually? You know, one good person per young child would help a lot. As far as smartphones that would help Africa, it largely boils down to carriers and the prices and establishment of the networks and how far the cellular networks go. Because anywhere a cellular network goes, with modern technology, you can pipe in at much lower cost than ever before a pretty high-speed internet. You can bring it to the people. As a matter of fact, where I live, I don't even have broadband at my own home through wires in the ground. The only way I can get broadband at home is actually through cellular, through radio networks. And the radio networks, though, there's so many places in Africa that are so distant from other ones that we can go to one place at a time and do a little trial. We'll give the kids some computers, we'll pipe in the internet to this one place, but you really kind of need everywhere to have it. How does it grow? How does infrastructure grow over time? I think you need a large dedication from the governments and from the wealthy people, even like yourself, the sources, to say, you know what, there's actually a business in here. If we get this developed, but we're going to have to spend some money to develop the infrastructure. It's like, well, how would we get around the United States without roads? How would you get around anywhere without roads? And the internet is the modern road. So, yeah.
Thank you. Great question. Two more questions. One has to deal with charity, and I'll be the last one because I'm a big believer in helping others. As I said, I recently purchased a company. I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be, you're actually going to see me on the cover of several publications in the next month. It's a combination of the three types of businesses I told you. And Mike, who's my South African co-partner, has been a huge fan, and he's been getting all his clients and getting the excitement for this event. It's been a huge help. So, I always help out my partners. So, Mike, why don't you come here and ask the Wozniak a question? Give Mike Arliston a big round of applause. I'm sorry for what he's wearing.
What he's wearing to me, I grew up in Keith. Clothes don't even matter.
Except for the JT box now.
He actually asked me to prevent on stage, and I said no.
Yeah.
Steve, we are running something that is also very exciting. I think that we're going through the feeling that you and Steve must have had at the time. Something that is very new, something that is utilizing the latest technology. We are breaking every rule.
Yeah, I saw it over there.
Yeah, no, the code was all 100%.
Yeah, it's not the code. He doesn't own any part of the code.
And we, given the phases that it's taking over, it's gone global overnight. It's opening in 27 different countries. And with the fact that we don't just want to create a brand, we want to create a legacy product. And I think it's the same sort of way that you approached Apple early on. You didn't want to just create a spectacular product or a spectacular brand. You wanted to be something that stood the test of time, that really left a legacy with people. And that's the sort of space we're wanting to build this. And what would your recommendation be? What sort of foundations would you put in place early on now to create a legacy brand if you've already got the product and the thing taking off the way you want it to?
First of all, a lot of your imagery, advertisements, just promotions, the documentations that come with a product or wherever it's seen, make sure that they show the users of your product as having more happiness, a better life, being a better person, or being a more popular person. Key advertising aspects. But yes, the person has to somehow see, how is this going to make me different than I am in a better way? And that's very, very important to capture that idea. And what's inside, may be the start of a long evolution that makes it, get there. I also hope your product idea is a whole new category of life, because those are the important ones.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because the TV ad military shot last week, the whole point is the ads in black and white, and as people engage with the product, they spring to life, the color touches them, and you actually see it being
the emotions are important. Black and white photography and movies bring out emotional feel much better than
So it's very important for them to live a full life.
Yes.
Thank you.
But then build on that, so we've got that part very carefully, we've got that human factor, we've got that excitement that you literally stop everything you're doing to engage in this at that exact moment. What would then be the next aspect to it? So we've got the excitement factor, we've got that, the advertising showing being contagious. What next?
Try to find some young people in the university, in high schools, that you can get attracted to your product and get them using it and talking about it, because usually you'll find out what should we play with and change, because young people come out unbiased. They'll tell you if it's good based upon what it is, and if it's bad, and why they like it, and why they don't. And they'll just be much more honest than somebody who's been through a lot of other products and has formulas for these things.
Very good advice.
Thank you.
And then last one.
Let me ask it. One, that's three.
Okay, we've got the stage time, JT.
We? Did you write the check to us, or did I? Just checking. We.
Gumedi's giving me the go-ahead. We good, Gumedi? Majority shareholder?
Oh,
gets you off the stage, JT.
No, I think he's saying no, out of mic.
Thank you very much, Steve, and also Mike.
One last question before we go on and take pictures, and then obviously the dinner, which is tradition, and make a partnering. Tomorrow we're going to have a charity auction that's going to benefit the Salvation Army that Joanna Mukaki is passionate about. And you have one of the coolest watches. So if the cameraman can kind of zoom in on the watch, and Woz is going to sign and autograph that watch, and that's going to be one of the items. So, okay, can you see? Go a little bit. Can you turn off the lights?
When I flip
Turn off the lights first. Hold on. Turn off the lights.
When
Turn off the lights.
flip my wrist.
Hold on. Turn off the lights. There's like a stare.
Dim the lights. Thank you.
No.
They dimmed while my hand was in front of them. Turn my wrist, and it displays hours and then minutes. I don't know if it's showing up. For some reason, it's not showing up that well. But it's nice, big, glowing, easy to read digits, and my brain doesn't have to work to read it. And that's what technology should do for us. It should make us feel like we're not thinking and we're not working. And that's why I love this watch. These are old vacuum tubes called Nixie tubes that were made 45 years ago. And they run on 140 volts inside the watch. It's waterproof, so you can wear it in the bathtub at least once.
So that watch
is the coolest watch in the world.
It is the coolest watch, and Woz has gracefully offered to sign it, and then tomorrow we are going to auction it off. And a piece of history here to benefit a great cause is learn, earn, return, which is the key to success. Ladies and gentlemen, give Steve Wozniak a big round of applause.